Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deaf Dog Network 15th anniversary talk by Vicki Cook, who is going to be informing our brains along the lines of her deaf dog journey, the Australian cattle dog, which is not a random thing. She's very experienced in breed and involved in the society. And she'll touch a little on the specialist search work that she does, although that is not with a dog who happens to be deaf right now. So you crack on there, Vicky. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So my name's Vicki, and I have Australian cattle dogs, and have done for about 15 years or so. Um, it was actually my husband who was first interested in the breed way before that, from the film Mad Max, which is a common thing that people often say is why they're interested in the breed is they've seen them on the film. But contrary to what um, people know about them, they don't tend to know an awful lot. But we do have a fantastic website which gives you lots of information, all the good and what's and all. Um, they are quite a quirky breed. Um, I've worked in vet practice for over 30 years and come across many, many breeds. And in fact, the first real live cattle dog that I saw actually came into work one day and we only ever had one. It only turned out in the end that I ended up having one of that lady's dogs even when she'd left practice, and I did not know because it went back to the mutual breeder. So bizarre how things turn a full circle. She was really pleased that I had that. So he was Code Red was my first cattle dog. He was a hearing dog. He could hear. Um, so about the breed, they are also known as healers. So any healer, be it Lancashire healer, corgi type, they nip at the heels for the cattle. Um, Cattle dogs are a medium-sized, stocky dog. Um, Personally, I find them stunning. They come in two colours, basically, a blue, so blue healer, and red, so red healer. So they look a bit ginger colour, really. Um, and they are bred to herd the livestock in the outback in Australia, and gather them all up. So they don't suffer fools gladly. They will pack a hefty punch. You can imagine that the size of the cattle that are roaming around. Um, if the cattle stand their ground, it is actually fascinating to watch. The cattle stand their ground and look at the dog like they do, like we know they do. Um, and they go to get head butted. The cattle dog has to get in there and sort that mess out. You know, don't suffer fools gladly. So they are very, very mouthy, and they nip at the heels very full on, um, to drive them and get them away. In fact, there was even one that was used at a zoo on elephants. I want to say America, but I could be completely wrong, but it's just come into my head. And so, with they have all due respect for things, but they've got a job to do and they get in there. If they're not given good direction, guidance on what they can and can't do, they'll make their own kamikaze play full time, and get in there. Um, so yeah, they do need they have that impulse control. Um, so yeah, they're great at tricks, as are many dogs. They're a bit heavy mouthed on sheep, as you can imagine. They can tear the sheep because they nip. Um, if you Google some images of cattle dogs working, you'll find some really great ones. But then the instincts, like what is brought out, as in many herding type dogs, They can herd people, children, anything. I always, if people ask me who are novice to the breed, I always say they're like border collies on drugs times 10. If they don't have a job to do or they create their own, it could be a nightmare. But also they question what you ask them to do. So it become a standing joke, as in, um, well, why? Why do you want me to do that? And you can see the cogs twirling in their brain, and you just have to like wait. And then if that way's not working, okay, well, let's do it this way. You need to do it. So it is quite funny. Um, yeah, they and they're excellent guard dogs as well. They may not say follow through, but they sound the business. I always felt quite protected when I went wandering, as I did. I'm originally from Manchester and I live in North Wales. Um, so I could go out wandering in the Peak District and the typical Vicki, oh, there's a path. Oh, there's a path. So I felt very safe. Um, there was one scenario I ended up in an area which, unbeknown to me, it was a bit of a setup in the end. Um, and yeah, they were on the phone. One was in front, one was at the back. I have no idea what was probably going to happen. But just a little uh, job's on, mate. And he just sort of fluffed himself up. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And that was it. Eyeballed them, and the one in front walked away, and that was enough. I called him a big giant womble. He was a red cattle dog. Um, oh yeah, regards that, Teresa, that's a common question. So thanks for asking that. Are the two different strains working type, show type, etc. I'll just check I have read that properly. Yeah, working in confirmation lines. They are all bred to work. They should all be able to work. They, well, I was going to say they should all be able to show, but the breed can become aloof with strangers and aloof with dogs. So, as much as the effort that you put into socializing them, good socialization, everything, it's like getting a box of Quality Street. Sometimes you just never know what you're gonna get. And this is why we have a code of ethics for the Society of Great Britain, because we want to promote good breeding, from obviously personality traits to all your hip scoring, elbow scoring, the PRA, and obviously getting their hearing tested. So they're Bayer tested at about 5 weeks or 6 weeks or so. So there are some unscrupulous breeders who don't do any of that. And then, as we know, it happens. It's one of them things. You can be the best breeder in the world and it still happens. You get a deaf dog. But having it tested is worth its weight in gold, because that owner has every right to know what they're taking on and that decision to take on that. Deaf dogs will do, the same as everything else. We've had one that has heard sheep, but it needs to be on a long line because she's not always checking in at you. But yeah, it still can do the job. I'm still really good at it. Makes no difference. But yeah, that's why it's important you know what you're getting, and this is what the Deaf Dog Network's all about. But it is promoting that. But yeah, there should be no difference in the show lines and bred for fit for purpose. So great question. And it still goes in a big debate, and it shouldn't be. It's not like the show cockers and working cockers. There is a difference in them. That there isn't in the cattle dogs. Um, my young boy who can hear, he shows and he works. Um, Not on cattle, tell you about that later. But give him a job to do. That's the most important thing. And if people say, "Oh, we're interested in the breed," we've never had a dog before, we say it's not a first breed dog. Um, because they will just, you give them a mile, you give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Um, and I like that. I like the cheekiness. I like the challenge. They'll give you 110% and they're extremely loyal. They're like Velcro. Um, Blue Dog, who is the deaf dog that we have, she sticks with my husband now like Velcro. Since we've moved to North Wales because he spends all his time with her. She's great, you know, chasing birds and planes. She's happy. Hey ho. um, so yeah, if you've got any questions on the breed, I will gladly fill you in. They again, some are cuddly, some are not. Some don't want to be stroked on the head, some do. Um, some people want them as show dogs, and the dogs don't want to be shown. Same as any dog, to be absolutely fair. But one thing we do say is when we do go to shows or fun events, because we try and promote lots of fun events so people can meet and greet the breed. Um, we'll be walking and you'll see someone, with their cattle dog, and you'll be like, hello, hi, how are you? As you walk in. Yeah, oh, lovely to see. Oh, he's looking well. Oh, yeah. Anyway, right, I'll catch you in a bit because you can't stand still and talk with a cattle dog, with another cattle dog, because they'll just eyeball each other and then it's a free for all. And then you're like, okay, yeah, sorry. Just, yeah, catch you in a bit. So, you can get the odd one or two that will mingle and play as a thing, but that's just the breed. That's what you've got to be willing to accept that you're taking on. And put into that one that's deaf, you can imagine the slightly extra challenge that can be ahead of you. So aloof with strangers, aloof with people, reactive to other dogs, and then throw in the mix of one being deaf, frustrated, confused is exactly one that I got.
Therese did add to her question, so then they wouldn't be a good fit for an average family. I guess average where? Average in the dog world, average with small kids. It's
Yeah. I I always say if you've got an agenda, i.e., you want to go to the pub every Saturday with your dog, or you want to go camping uh, once a month and go exploring everywhere in busy places, Edinburgh, etc., stuff like that. Um, we had one guy who was in a rock band and he wanted a cattle dog and he wanted to take it everywhere with him. Cattle dog's not for you. Because if you've got an agenda of something that is really passionate for you, like agility, you might end up with a dog that can't deal with crowds. Um, he's fantastic at agility, fantastic at loads of different sports. But if it's reactive and can't focus in the ring, can't be done. Same with obedience work. Same with had one that she wanted to go camping all the time, and that's what she did. And by 2-year-old, the dog had enough and was lunging out at people, lunging out at dogs. So that stopped her. So they're great family dogs, but I would say small children um, can be herded easily. If they've had cattle dogs before and they're an average family with the best will in the world, that should be okay. But then we do get some that are up for rehoming because they're not coping with the house that they're in. And these are hearing ones. Um, and that's just an example of that. So it is unfortunate. Um, yeah, and then you add in two cattle dogs in the same family, and yeah, that's great fun. One of my friends has got like four. That's great. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and Teresa said, but would that not apply to any dog? Well, to some degree, yes, you've always got to be careful that your dog's suited to your lifestyle. But if you haven't really done a lot of research or only want a cattle dog, and as Vicky was saying, you're set in your ways, this is my life, this is what I enjoy, this is what I do, but your cattle dog says no, then yeah, like any other dog, you wouldn't be able to take it. Same with my boxer Gollum. Initially, he was happy coming to shows. He was happy performing, meeting people, all those things, and the traveling. And then one time I took him, and I thought he wasn't quite on form. So that time I thought maybe he wasn't feeling so good, maybe. But the next time he made it quite clear because he didn't do anything.
Quite obviously tell you, don't they?
Yeah. So, the demoing life was no longer for him. And that
Mm,
didn't want to do it anymore. So yeah, it could be any breed of dog,
yeah,
but these cattle dogs, and particularly the Australian cattle dog that we're referring to here at the moment, can be a little bit more so, shall we say?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think out of, like I say, I've had a lot of breeds go through my hands over the years. Um, and there are owners that are vets and behaviourists. So they're seeing, a huge footfall. I mean, we were back in Manchester, we were seeing 40 patients a day because we don't have an appointment system. It was just whatever comes in is what you see. Um, you know, Same with your breeds, like your German Shepherds, your Border Collies. We know that they will kennel guard. Yeah, that's one that I'm always going, yeah, that probably kennel guard. I know if I open up that door on the German Shepherd and give it positive direction, out. Come here, wait, sit, get hold of that lead, put you on the scales, sit, wait, good job. If you positive like that, I know them breeds, but cattle dogs can just do this, what we call stink eye, and you're like, not going near that, not a chance. Um, but yeah, and same with the collies, they can certainly kennel guard and give no warning as well is another one. Um, but yeah, I do think cattle dogs are kind of quite different in a different way. Um, and people get them confused with kelpies. Um, and they're not kelpies. Um, they are quite a unique breed.
Yeah, but a Kelpie again, another breed close to the knuckle of still being very worky,
Mm,
very much
yeah.
driven in that way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So then tell us how your first.
So yeah, my deaf dog journey, if you like.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So your first cattle dog was Code Red, and then from there
yeah, so I had
rolled
code
on.
red. So I became a qualified behaviourist and then got a cattle dog who was 8 years old, who was code red, who then learnt me an awful lot more as well. So yeah, and I met some great people with great guidance, etc. So Code lived till he was 17 years old. Um, and that's what I love about the breed is the longevity. In fact, they're the longest lived dog is an Australian cattle dog. Um, there was one that came out that was a different breed, but it was all a hoax apparently. So yeah, Australian cattle dog, longevity, uh, because we look after the genetics hopefully in the best way that we can. And also what we're seeing is the format of them, the conformation of them, hasn't changed over the years, very little. Whereas we know like brachycephalic dogs, short nose breeds, etc. They have changed over the years. Um, so yeah, we're just hopefully breeding better for their personality, if you like, the characteristics and personality. Hopefully. Um, so yeah, that was my first red cattle dog. Was Code Red. Very honoured to have him. Very strange how he came into my hands, but he did. He learnt me lots, and then we had like a crossbreed as well at the same time. Um, and then the crossbreed, unfortunately, she came to her end. Um, and we'd been just had Code Red for a few months on his own. And I got asked, would I trial this deaf girl who was up in Scotland? She had the breed generally, as a rule, if they're a good breeder, they go back to the breeder if you can have them. It keeps them out of shelters and rescues and into the wrong hands as well. So we want to look after the breed. So I got asked and we had a chat at home. I knew she was deaf. I didn't know anything much more about her. So the breeder, what was then, she was from a mismating. It happens. The both parents shouldn't have mated. And uh, she was she was from that. Also, her brother was up for rehoming. Not from the same family of where they had to rehome them. Um, and the brother was just deaf in one ear, so actual deaf. And somebody in Essex was having that one, so they met in Manchester at our house. I said, "We'll have her if she'll walk with Code Red." Um, so we walked down the street along the field, and they didn't bat an eyelid. They completely ignored each other, to be absolutely fair. So I thought I can work with that. Cattle dogs are known to have a bit of a history of redirecting. So if they can't get to whatever it is, like another dog barking at them or staring at them, they can redirect onto you. So we're fully aware of that. So the only history I knew about her is that she had lived in Scotland, was the only dog, and came from a couple who had split up. And she took the dog. She got with somebody else and she became pregnant. And he said the dog had to go. He wasn't a dog person and maybe he didn't trust her around dogs. I don't know. I don't know anything. There was no contact. So this dog comes out of the back of the Land Rover, goes for a walk. Okay, leave her with me. And we walked through the door, absolutely fine. Kept leads on for just in case. Bear in mind, this dog only had a slip lead brought on her. We took the slip lead off, kept my other dog on a lead, if I remember rightly. I could not get a collar on this dog. She would have had my face off. It took about a week or two to get a collar on her, to gain trust. She was just so snappy at everything. It was quite clearly over the next few days of her being with us, she was frustrated. She was worried. We always say with the cattle dogs, they can take 3 to 4 months at least to settle in their new environment. And then I've got this Code Red who doesn't take any messing off any other dogs. So they're having a few little spats, so I'm having to do management around the house. Eventually I do get a collar and lead on her. And I walk her down to the field and find I'm walking both dogs separately. Not doing much, just like feeding, throwing food on the floor, trying to get a bit of a look at me. And she's quite aware of other dogs around. It's like, okay. And one day I had walked her first, I think, and then didn't answer my mobile phone. It was on silent. I'd took her back to the house, took Code Red out for a walk on the field, to have a voicemail of my husband in major panic. He'd opened up the door to go out to work. She'd slipped by his legs and run down the street towards the field. He must have done a stop or something that she recognised. And and sat in the middle of the road with a car behind her beeping its horn. Um, so my husband, thankfully, got hold of a collar and she didn't react, and he took her back home. She was only a short distance, obviously. She was going to the field where I'd been taking her. But I couldn't afford to walk them both together for the fact if one of them reacted to something, because I knew very little about her. I knew code could be a bit funny with male dogs. So I had to bear that in mind. So when I did walk them together, he was muzzled for safety, everything's safety. So yeah, over the next couple of months, it came to light that this dog was just a horrendous problem. I was in tears every day for about 6 months on most days. I have a very good friend who had and how this is how I met her. She had Code Red's brother, daughter, and we became very good friends. And I rang her up every day, near enough in tears, because they were fighting. Both dogs were fighting. My husband wasn't doing things that I asked him to do because I was trying to do management. Yeah. And so, let alone trying to deal with the deaf dog, trying to deal with a dog who's hormonal. Oh, yeah, she was due to come in season, sort of any time that we got her. 18 months old, critical age, teenage years, adolescent, strange environment. I'm not used to having a collar on, this, that, and the other, because in Scotland they just opened up the door. Then my husband saying, "This dog's got to go." Um, it was tense. It was tense. But her personality started to come through. She was cheeky. And actually, I think she knew very little sign language. And I think she was really confused. Well, I know she was really confused. She likes her own bubble. That all came out. She was doing things 110% for me because it was like a light switch. It was like, oh my God, someone's communicating to me. And I get it. I get it. So the more that she was learning and the more that I respected her boundaries, okay, I'm not going to brush you because I can see you're going to have my face off. So I'm going to treat and reward and etc. Take things slowly. But this girl was very, very wary of everything. And yeah, she was great fun. And she still is great fun. Um, yeah, she's 10 years old now. She's just turned 10. So yeah, we I could not trust her around people that did not know her, and did not respect. And actually, I spent most of my time, as a lot of us do who know about behaviour and training and things, you're like, oh my God, baby gate there, muzzle train there, there's nothing wrong with management at all. But to see her flip her switch and, you know, doing things, I videoed myself training worth its weight in gold because I make mistakes as much as everybody else. And I could see that when I videoed myself. I've got one video, for example, of us playing cards. She does a card trick. I can shuffle the cards, fan them out, give her a card. She takes the card. She'll hold it. I'll pretend to shuffle again and she'll put it back in the deck. Yeah, fantastic trick, really good. Um, when we were learning that, this is the first time I'd done that trick with any dog, let alone her. I laughed because she did something, I can't remember what it was. And I laughed. She got frustrated. And she backed up and she she was laid down on the floor and she backed up and she backed, and I laughed more. And I went, what? And she went, "Ah." And I went, oh, sorry. And it's funny, I apologise to cattle dogs. I mean, we always, oh, stood on your foot, sorry. But cattle dog, it'll go, oi. Funny. So yeah, she was a real challenge. So I had to watch if she's, if someone went to approach her, same with some cat dogs that you don't know, you go to approach, um, and they don't want touching, but she can be stood around you, and as long as though you don't look at her, you don't eyeball her, and you don't go, oh, good, oh, she's pretty. No, she won't have any of that. But she'll stand there when you're in a bubble. She'll do all the tricks in the world for you. Um, you know, she'll go around you. She'll come underneath, under your legs and stand on your feet. She'll do the little dance with you. Um, but it takes her a long time to trust people, and that's fair enough. So people are the same, aren't they? I think it takes a long time if you've had frustration, anxiety, etc. Um, I've never medicated her. I've perhaps given her some, supplements of calming, like when we moved house, um, to make things easier. Um, but yeah, she loves to be in her own bubble. She loves the sea. She'll pull you down to the sea. But if there's a dog playing ball that's near her, she gets frustrated at it. So it's distance. But, she's had dogs come up behind her, and that's really frustrated her. So it's trying to turn around and, look at it first, and then we'll carry on. But yeah, she's good fun.
Yeah, so she's taught you an awful lot as well. I mean, they all teach us something, but some of them teach us ever such a lot. And I understand, as I guess many people watching this in the future will, when you have to manage dogs up, aren't particularly happy together.
Mm.
Much as the physical management isn't so hard as long as we all follow the rules, it's really emotionally draining to have to go through all that with dogs. I've had that situation here with own dogs and with a foster dog that's come in, that kind of thing. So, I've got the space, I can manage the dogs, I can move them about safely, but it's a lot of pressure. And you are always worried about what if that gate didn't quite click, even though checked it twice.
It's like stable
They
dog.
learn,
Did I do it?
yeah, 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 exactly. What if today they learn to lift and push at the same time?
And, and this was things like be careful on the tricks and things that you're teaching them. We call them tricks. They're life skills, really, at the end of the day, isn't it? It's a trust building thing. Yeah, how cute is that dog going in between your legs, standing on your feet and walking with them? Well, actually, that's a come into my space. I've got your back. I don't want you reacting to anything. I don't want you guarding me either. Um, and it's a trust thing. I know I can turn around in a circle and show her the world. Um, it looks a very cute, cool trick. You put music to it, and it looks adorable. But um, you know, they are life skills. Importantly, I can get her to do that, to hold her securely, to have her back examined, for example. Um, you know, uh, she she'd started a few scraps with Code Red, um, because food was scattered on the floor, uh, and like I say, they're quick to get in there. You may think it's just a nip, but they can tear skin. So yeah, I had uh, some wounds from that, let's say.
Yeah, I've
Um,
got a couple of bite marks on a calf. It wasn't very deep, but it did pierce skin, big bruising. That was from a cattle dog.
yeah. Oh God, poor you.
And the only other dog that got me like that was an Estrella. So there you go.
Oh wow. Oh gosh. Yeah, I had so Blue Dog, they had a fight over food on the floor. my husband just scattered. So I was like, what have you just done? No. And yeah, they had a big fight about it. And she split his head open. His head. Yeah, it was his head. And so I'm an ex-vet nurse, old school vet nurse. Um, so I stapled his head and took him into work the next morning, gave him some pain relief, took him into work next morning. My boss went, oh, that's really good. And I went, need stitching. And he went, no, that'd be fine. And I went, no, I know I cleaned it out and flushed it out. I mean, you're talking 15 years ago, you know. And I took the staple removers and it all opened up. And he went, words to the effect is, that's a really good job with a few swear words in it. Oh my God. So yeah, they just, can pack a good punch is what I'll say. But then any dog can do damage. Jack Russells, they can be like,
Yorkshire Terrier.
what's just crazy,
Quicker
isn't
than
it?
me, unfortunately. So, yeah, breeds that some are more prone and in personality and history.
Yeah,
You've got to know your dog. But I don't know how long ago now it was that this middle position became really popular just to be used to help protect your dog. It's got to be at least 10 years now, hasn't it?
yeah,
Really
yeah.
teach it purely for that reason. Dog,
Mm,
come here. I am responsible for you. You don't have to worry about anything.
yeah.
I've got you.
And but again, breed dependent because guarding breeds, then that's taught to them, and then they automatically go on guard form. So it's like, oh my God, so there's, sometimes you do have to think, and you do have to think about your sign language as well. You know, I have, um, I try and stick with British Sign Language because I deal with deaf people as well in vet practice. So I love to learn it. Um, so some things I do as that, and like I say, there's no real form to it, is there? So that's drop in British Sign Language. So everything has to be one-handed. Got hold of the lead, drop, or leave it. So she grabs the lead, pull, 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 pulling the lead. I'm like, leave it, leave it. She's got to be looking at me, leave it. Excuse me, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Oh, looks like I'm about to slap my dog, doesn't it? So, but I wouldn't change it. I'd still keep it as that. But yeah, um, like I say, she was like a Saint Trinian with a baseball bat and knew how to use it. Um, she wouldn't eat treats either. When I first got her, she wouldn't have anything. Um, but I will say, I had a really good friend who I could cry to,
Oh, good.
worth its weight in gold. Just someone to bounce ideas off as well. You can know what you know, but just talking it through is also a massive help. And not being judged is the other important thing. And she she loves to swim. So that was really good exercise for her in a safe environment. Um, but also I went to, which was actually one of Danielle Beck's classes with somebody else, uh, and we created a safe haven. So I could go to class. I travelled quite a distance. I could go to class in a safe space, not feel judged, and have someone else say, right, we're going to do this, that, and the other, but you do whatever you want to do, take your time. And we created a curtain against tables and chairs. And eventually she was coming out of it and looking round the corner. And then if she looked back at me, she'd get loads of treats, you know. So it was just having them safe spaces. And for me, with any dog, with any training or any behaviour stuff, you need that safe space, not to be judged, to be able to vent no matter who you are. And I hope that's what the Deaf Dog Network provides for people, and people understand that they're there for that. There's no judgment. Um, Everyone's there to support. We've all had problems with one way or another. Two heads are better than one to help solve it. everyone has an opinion. They may not all be right. But um, what Karen provides is fantastic. It's a safe area um, to guide you um, to someone that can help you as well. Um, and that's trusted, because we all know there's trainers out there that don't have so um, great reputations. Um, and also, I do think it's really important that these trainers or behaviourists have worked with deaf dogs before, because I've come across some trainers that have given up on the deaf dog, and it's just because they're not tapped in. They've just not tapped into the simplicity. It really is. It's gaining that trust, that simplicity, that communication. And I find it totally fascinating. I absolutely love it. Um, I'd have all of the deaf dogs type thing. I wouldn't care what breed they were. You know, Cane Corso if it was deaf. Bring on the challenge. Yeah. Still got all my fingers.
No, it's very good you're saying about not being judged in class and trainers not having the capability. The thing is, I think most trainers who train in a positive fashion, in a science-based, force and fear-free, they do know. They absolutely do know. It just needs one thing for that to click in their heads. I used to give free talks for professionals in the canine world to help them around with clients and their deaf animals. And most of them, within 5 or 10 minutes of me talking about it, would go, "Oh, okay, I did
Because
know
we're
how to
doing
do
that
that."
before. Yeah, we're doing it with body language before, you know. It's just the accent, isn't it? It's, for controversial Barbara Woodhouse sit, which is how my first one was, to now it's just that. My lie down was bobbing to the floor, pointing, and now it's that. And if my friend does it, she might be speaking a bit in a Scottish accent, for example. She might be doing that, and the dog will be looking. It's just tuning into it. We all do body language.
And as we know, that's the first port of language for dogs is body
Mm,
language, not
yep.
vocality at all. Body language probably followed by scent and then visual and vocal uh,
Mm,
for communication. So, yes, I think, as many people have already said during this month and have said to me many times, when you live full time with a deaf dog, if you haven't done so before, from young or from middle age or other, but over and above those that have turned deaf with age, I think um, the relationship you can build, well, they build with you, don't they? They preempt stuff. They kind of know what you're thinking half the time because all our pheromones and hormones will change when we're up, down, happy, sad, excited, bored, whatever. Slight shift in body position, they'll know in a minute she's getting up to go to the kitchen, or or she's stood up quick. There must be someone at the door.
yeah.
They, they can just pick up all those things all the time, and I think we notice it so much more when we're living with a deaf dog because it has to be that two-way communication more so. We have to understand them also. Uh, so yes, I think we've been very lucky uh, have the dogs that we have had in our life, whether they've been, a bit difficult for us to manage for some of the time. We've managed them, we've learned from them, they've gone on to live nice lives. That hasn't happened purely because you're a behaviourist and I'm a trainer. It's happened because we could be bothered to find out more and help our dogs more. And most people out there, that's all they want to do. They want to help the dog they've got in front of them.
Mhm.
So many people, I think, do get a bit embarrassed coming to the group. I think they're being silly asking questions like, what signs should I use? Nothing is a stupid question if you don't know the answer.
And sometimes, to be honest, asking them questions, you could be like, good question. Actually, let's think about this. Because we're all different, you know. It's like you say, you're dealing with the dog that's presented in front of you. You're also dealing with the person that's presented in front of you. So if somebody is left-handed, you wouldn't get them to automatically treat with their right hand because that's not first nature to them. They don't have to. So you have to go, this is how I do it. Let's pretend the dog's there. You do it. And, it's the same with everything. And the deaf dogs, because we know vibrations, movement, you're taking that into context. But, well, I gave a talk to a famous person's class, let's say, within 4 months of having Blue Dog to do deaf dog training and how things were going because she was early with me. She was a nightmare. But because we're in a church hall, and so underneath there was I think they call it a crypt or something, where it's an empty space. So she very quickly learnt barking and she must have felt the vibrations. Yeah. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do to this? Okay, I'll scatter food, etc. Give her some, she knew hand touch, she knew down, she knew sit. But then it came a repetitive, you know. And then what is it we're doing next? What is it we're doing next? And I said to all of the students, this is the dog that's in front of you. Sometimes training doesn't go to plan. You know, this is a new environment for her. She's not been with me that long. She's not, I don't know if she's ever been in this sort of room before. Um, she doesn't know any of you. This is a massive group. Uh, so that's training. Learn from it.
So at the moment, then you've got Blue Dog as your deaf dog, and she's a senior now. But you've also got young Hiccup there.
Yeah, so I've got Professor Hiccup.
He's the one you do specialised stuff with. So if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about that, please.
Professor Hiccup, I was lucky enough to get as a pup, my first pup, after having all rescue dogs or second-hand dogs, as I sometimes call them, in a nice way. Yeah, I basically got shown a path by someone that came into vet practice who was a client and what they were just about, their journey they were about to start on. And I was quite fascinated when my boss came up and went, you'll never guess what this lady's starting to do. And so further down the line, a year and a half later, a little bit more than that, I'm now a qualified search and detection team with Professor Hiccup. And our specialist detection is victim detection and human remains. So basically, cadaver search. So people who have passed away in whatever circumstances, unfortunately, they could have been out walking and passed away. Happens quite a lot in North Wales, unfortunately, and have been missing for several days. So once a certain amount of time has passed, then Hiccup should be able to detect or can detect where they are. So I'm on the end of the lead, if you like, and I just get him I turn him on to work, and he will nose down to the ground or up in the air. He'll vary it depending on wind and whether it's hot, cold, etc. So yeah, we could get called to a police investigation. Has to be the police that tell us to a murder scene, for example, where Mrs. Smith's gone missing, been missing for a time in suspicious circumstances, or and they presume that she may have been buried, for example, or to the person who has lost their life, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, to help recover them back to their family for closure, and hopefully to help that nobody else comes across them. I would rather come across them first than somebody else, because at least I know that my dog is onto something, and I can prepare myself as much as what I could. You know, in vet practice, I see a lot of horrible things. Unfortunately, I hope that I could build my wall up as much as what I do sometimes when you have to. Um, you know, and same for the dog. The dog needs that support as well. You know, it's a big game to him, um, but it may not be when you find somebody, for example, without putting too much of a dampener on it. But yeah, totally fascinating. It is fascinating to watch all of the dogs work. Hiccup is not the first cattle dog to do human remains detection. In fact, so I live on Anglesey, North Wales. The first cattle dog to do cadaver detection actually came from Anglesey, and the former, I want to say, she's not the founder of the committee, but basically she was an honorary member, one of the first breeders of cattle dogs in the UK. It was one of her dogs. And this dog was reactive. So when I moved here, I went to go and the lady's name was Edith. She's passed away now, elderly age. Um, she we became good friends, which was fascinating. So she donated this before I even took this going down this path of doing this training. She donated this dog who was reactive, a biter, to people and dogs. And we all know that scent work helps dogs with problems. So the team, which is UK K9, took the dog on. It was good, but unfortunately, it was a liability as well. So it stopped. The training stopped shortly. So yeah, Professor Hiccup was the second one to become a cadaver dog. There is one that is in training currently in Ireland, also doing this. So, and we're qualified for searching on land and banks. So anything basically above land, so on top, and below. So it's not quite like your man trailing or whatnot. It's a lot of hard work for me. So yes, the dog does the searching and the nose work and the indication. He barks on indication of his find. But for example, if there was uh, uh, a murder investigation, let's say, I have to do a lot of groundwork before. So I have to prep the ground in order for him to be able to smell and get odor up. So I've learned absolutely loads on it. It's totally fascinating. And it's, you know, Hiccup, even though we're not qualified in water, you have a go. Because you can go on. The only reason I'm not going to go down the route of water is it costs me a lot of money. All this is funded by myself. So your training costs a lot of money. All my equipment costs a lot of money. The dog's equipment, the dog's care, the vehicle that I need to use to get me up in the mountains, and do search work. I also get to demonstrate to people who've come from Czechoslovakia, Ireland, Poland. So I'm meeting lots of really interesting people. Hiccup loves it, absolutely loves it. But again, it's a total learning curve. You know, and you're out in all weathers.
You know, I think in this country and probably in others, we should be incredibly grateful to people like yourself, and not just with cadaver dogs, the general search and rescue folk up the mountains, on the fells and downs, in the beaches, through urban situations, finding and helping people, and if not finding and helping the person, helping their loved ones, as you say, to bring things to a close. And I think we kind of forget as a general public what it might do to you guys and how that feeds down to your dogs as well, because it doesn't matter to a certain degree. In some situations, you can put on a smile and kid your dog, but in others, you really can't because you're
Mm.
feeling so heavily, and the dogs know this. So within that team, do you have like sessions and chit chats with each other or
Yeah, we
dogs to unwind? How do you deal with that?
yeah. So if you do get support, if it goes under a police investigation, and you are involved in a find, you do get support from that, and you do get things like the police will pay for obviously your food and your stay overnight where you are. But if uh, Mrs. Smith's gone missing and not been seen for 5 days, and the police have stopped investigations and we don't get called in, then perhaps after 7 days, um, their family, the person's family, could contact us and say, "Please, can you help?" And that's all voluntary. Um, and then we have to, go, "Okay, where was she last seen, etc." Um, and that's something that particularly we don't get trained as. We are currently trying to get charity status with um, for this, so that we can, like I say, all the equipment is everything that I bought myself. So you can go through waterproofs quite quickly, depending where you're searching. Um, so yeah, and also comes with us having this charity status is we're getting together with other members of the team who know about like the lowland or mountain rescue work. We're very lucky that we've got actually a search manager on our team. Um, and so, but we've got to remember that the two things are separate. So yeah, training the dogs to find that scent, um, and how we work the land and what we call probing the land to give scent holes for the dog. You know, it's 20 meters by 20 meters squared when we're doing a grid. So that's, I think, worked it out about 400 and odd holes I'm probing, and with every meter. Um, and then you send in the dog along. So they spend a lot of time just chilling out, not doing much, resting, because then when they're on it, when they're working really, really hard. Um, and searches can be sometimes, some days you can barely have your dog out. You do have your dog out, you're always setting stuff up on training, but then other times you can be out covering acres and acres and acres, and you've got a map you're going off, and you're like, I can't see the style. I can't get my dog over the field. You're not meant to cross into a field you can't get into, etc. But we have special permission to go in lots of places um, to train. So that's really good. But again, totally blows me away. People go out walking, and this, if there's anything that you take away from this particular talk, is please tell somebody where you are, um, and wear the right equipment. I've seen people walking in areas and they've got on flimsy shoes, flip flops, and that's no word of a lie. In the fog setting, and they're like, "Excuse me, you can quite obviously see we're working, we're doing stuff. Do you know where such and such a thing is?" And we're like, "You've come all the way up here and you can't navigate, you know." And that's how people get lost. And that's, just sit it out under a thermal sheet type thing, carry a small first aid bag, have something that'll, to charge your phone, have a flashlight, um, put on location on your phone. It's things we take for granted, and actually, if anything, from me doing the course has learnt me to protect myself that little bit more as well. Um, and my
Well,
dog.
yeah, I don't go hiking up over hill and dale or anything like that. I walk locally in woods, quite some area. Usually I'm with someone, but sometimes I'm not. But whether I'm with someone or not, I will always have a basic first aid kit for me and the dogs, basically some water, a battery torch in case my phone goes, a small charge pack in case that kind of thing, foil blanket,
Yeah,
compass. Yeah,
yeah.
I know
And
roughly
know
what
how to use
direction
it.
I live in. So yeah, and I think there was another trainer, and I don't know what they exactly put in there, but oh yes, Steve Mann, he used to say about the rucksack or backpack walks, have this, that, and the other to do stuff with your dog, but also to be prepared for if things happen. And I really think a lot more of us should do that. And even people without dogs, hey, if you're going off wandering, like you say, even if it's someone you know reasonably well, have
Mm,
a small first aid kit with you and tell someone where you're going.
yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. And like here, we see so many people paddle boarding or canoeing with no life jacket on, and they're sending the kids out with no life jacket on. And the search and rescue team, which I joined briefly due to time commitment, I had to stop because I had to think you're doing too much. So I had to stop. Um, you know, the things that they're called out for, and you just think that could have been preventable. I've seen, I saw one child on the beach in the sea with his brother or sister, struggling, shouting. And the parents were right next to me, just so as it happened. And I was walking with Blue Dog. So bear in mind, I'm trying to watch what's around me. And mum said to dad, you better go in there and go and get them. Oh, it'll be fine. Well, I was like, actually living here and seeing what I've seen, you better get in there and get your child because they're obviously not happy. And then by the time he did, everything was fine, thankfully. But just, if someone says they're not okay, they're not okay, you know. And if the parents had been closer, they could have got there much quicker and observed more. Um, yeah, it is.
It's another thing, and I've got to admit, back in the day when my kids were not tiny but smaller than adults now, there were times where, yeah, off you go, but keep an eye on your sister. We put that burden on the slightly older child now. I wouldn't do that kind of thing nowadays, obviously,
Yeah,
but back then, yeah, I did, probably 30 odd years ago. Um, but I'd still have, you've got to keep one eye on them all the time, haven't you? Children, animals,
yeah.
you never know what they're going to do next.
And this, it's the same with the dogs. Being in vet practice, seeing them going, even here, I was going to say Manchester, but even here, uh, dogs off lead
Mm,
and they've chased cattle or sheep or something, and the sheep's gone over the edge, and he's on a ledge. That's always being reported. Oh, there's a sheep on the ledge down near the sea. Yeah, because someone's off lead dog has chased it. You know, I was just yesterday in a tourist area dog training because it's great, and I had Hiccup with me, and there's cattle in this area. You don't really that they're often not there, but the farmer was there on his quad, and I thought perfect opportunity. So the cattle had moved to one side of the road, so I went up and I asked, I've got a search dog. I want to put some stuff out. Are your cattle staying over there now? And he said, yeah, that's fine. Um, and I said, what I didn't want is to go on, it's open land, so you can go on it. But for him to think, hey, what's she doing? But I wanted to work Hiccup with different smells of the fresh cattle that have been on because, he has to learn to ignore uh, horses, sheep, cattle, all these instinctive things he's bred to do to keep a beady eye on them. Um, he's the most friendliest dog to other dogs and people. He's mentally crazy. He jumps up at everybody because I want him to be friendly. I don't want to, I'm not bothered about him sitting on the floor and waiting patiently for Bob to stop talking. He can be a nutter. I'm not bothered. I'd rather a friendly dog than a cattle dog that's biting. And being a search dog, if you're out training with your dog, we often get people, what you doing? No, we're just training. We don't necessarily tell them what for. Um, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But um, we will, and if my boss is listening, he'll probably kill me. Sorry, Captain. But yeah, if we're training, people are interested, and it's nice to get, like you say, get the word out there that these do happen because you don't realise until it affects you. Like the search and rescue, amount of people that didn't know about Mon search and rescue, and I'm like, gosh, if you fell at such and such a place, they'd be the ones coming out and getting a stretcher to you, and all voluntary. Um, and it is about getting the word out there because I think it's important. Um, these are charities. You know, the same as Deaf Dog Network. It's not a paid income. It's yeah, exactly. And it's just getting that good word out there about these resources that are out there and things to help. Um, and if anybody has got a local um, mountain or lowland or any search and rescue team near them, you can go and volunteer to be I was going to say dog's body. That's not right.
Whisper. I've been one.
That's it. A MISPA. I couldn't think then. Yeah, you could go and be a MISPA.
Yeah.
So a missing person who they'll give you a scenario. They could have dementia, and so you've got to go and hide somewhere in a really odd space, just sat on a bench, for example. Um, or a man trailing dog. Someone's gone out who's got dementia, gone from their care home, um, and need to be found by the qualified dog. Um, I've sat, I've sat in the middle of nowhere with a sleeping bag and a bivy bag around me a couple of times and thought, "Oh, for a team over in Ireland, I was like, please find me, hurry up. Cold. What if I fall off this boulder into the sea? Who put me here? Why am I doing this for nothing? Why I'm not getting paid for this."
The few times I've done Whisper for search and rescue, I've always really enjoyed it. I mean, it's usually cold. It's usually a bit dark. But you got your little bivy bag or whatever. You can sit down. You can cover up. You can just be
Yeah,
there looking at the phone, whatever it is you want to doing a sketch. And the hardest bit of being a Whisper is not acknowledging the dog when it's nearly there or when it arrives. You just have to be. You're not allowed to do
yeah.
anything.
And it was funny to give a comparison like what you've just said. I did a man trailing um couple of hours. So somebody was teaching me man trailing with hiccup. So bear in mind we're a qualified human remains team without putting horrible. I reward him for when he's found. And we went and did this man trailing, and obviously just a short distance the person went because we were learning, and this person had a pot of food. And so he found this person and instinctively barked because
Okay.
that's his alert. Because I wanted something loud. I didn't want him sitting in stuff that he might not be keen on. And so yeah, for this man trailing, he barked, and she had this pot of food, and he looked at it really confused, and then ate it ravenously like he'd never eaten before. And it was quite worrying. I was like, oh, I kind of don't like the way he reacted on that. But good job. And we were walking away, talking, going back to the thing, and I said, actually, I've just had a thought. He is never allowed to eat what he finds,
So,
obviously.
ah,
So that completely messed up his head, as in, so I said, right, when we do it again, I don't want you to feed him. I want to feed him because at the end of the day, this is a fun thing. This isn't, this is business. Um, so, so yeah, that was the only thing. Yeah, I do know that there has been some cadaver dogs who also do man trailing and do get fed by the person, and it's fine. But for me, on the early days of that, I think I would be doing the feeding. Because it's funny, isn't it? You spend so much time not, no, you can't have that, you can't have that, and then Yeah. And I'm just next weekend, we're just back on our um reassessment because you have to get reassessed every year. So to keep my ticket to work um for the pair of us. So we're qualified as a team, and Hiccup is a registered and we're on a register as well. So it's quite fascinating. So he's a service dog. Yeah.
Well, Vicky, thank you so much for one coming back, and two, we had more time this time, so much more little stories and information, and I think it's good because I think throughout this, a lot of people that have spoken, be they owners or professionals, we've had honesty, we've had feelings. Yeah, it's really important to train your dog. It's really important for them to ignore this and ignore that and respond to you. But at the end of the day, they're not a robot. And we have to be ready for those situations too and think about when something happens that we haven't thought about before. We just have to take that as a lesson and go, right, how can I stop that happening another time? Um,
Yeah.
as much as we do with any animal that we're training, we're going to make mistakes. They don't
And
make
it's a
mistakes.
learning curve,
Yeah,
isn't it? Like, and everybody has off days. I always say, don't train if you're not in the mood.
yeah.
And because you get frustrated and the dog gets frustrated as well. But also because of my background, when I'm watching dogs do search work, so we're doing training all the time, um, and the dogs can be playing up, and I'm really fascinated, as in, right, there's something not right with your dog, and for one example I can give, this qualified dog was messing around, and I was like, there's something clinical going on. It's not because it's a good dog. There's something clinical going on. When we get back to the van, let's have a look. I'm not a vet. I'm not allowed to diagnose, but I have a great interest. Um, and I was like, when was she last in season? Hmm, just lift her up. She's having a false pregnancy, and that's why she was messing around. Hormones play a massive part. Uh, Hiccup's not been great with his ears. That'll be a Facebook post shortly. So he's been on medication. Oh, it's been a nightmare, Karen.
I think I did see you were doing a little bit of like practice with him. Yeah.
I was doing chin rest stuff with him to prep him. Um, but he's already got an ear. He's got the ear problem, so obviously it's sore.
And it's got
And
to be done, unfortunately.
yeah, and then what a lot of people don't know, and what some vets also don't know, is that when they're on steroids, which he was on for tablet form, so for his ears, they lose the ability to smell as good as what they normally do. So, any training, and I can't remember how I came across it. I knew about it before I started doing the scent work stuff, um, because it was to do with behaviour stuff why I'd learnt it. Um, so yeah, so some
Wonder if that reduces actually how it initially gets processed because it all goes through all the channels in the nose, and if it's the brain not managing
mm,
read it properly when the information gets there. Yeah,
whether
fascinating.
it's because steroids reduce inflammation, so
Oh, that's down.
yeah, and is it blocking certain sensors? I don't know the reason why. It would be fascinating to know. Um, but yeah, when they're on a common steroid that we use um, for things, it can mess up. So, and this is where it comes to thinking outside the box. This behaviour is not normal for this dog.
Yeah.
Why? Why? There's got to be some reason. And like I say, him with his ear problem, his behaviour became out of sorts, and this is not normal. And then you add into the fact that I've got a deaf dog that I can't, if she's facing the other way, I can't sign to say back up,
Yeah.
wait, or move. Um, okay, what's the challenge on that? Well, he has to go under house arrest. So he's on a long line, he's in a crate because he was the one instigating the fights because he was in pain. Um, and so you know, I didn't want them both on a long line because that would make it tricky. Um, and then, you know, but behaviours was out of sorts. And what Blue Dog, the deaf one, was doing was herding him, which was annoying him. Normally you'd put up with it. And then she was doing the typical cattle dog, get your neck, get your neck, get, and he'd had enough.
Yeah.
He'd really had enough. So yeah, if behaviour for some reason is changing or out of sorts, there's got to be some medical reason as to why. I'd say 70% of the time we say anyway, don't we? So fascinating.
Yes, and I'm glad that more recognition is being placed on behaviour, not just you're a bad dog, but are you hurting?
Exactly. If the scenario that I've just been through with him, also hormones with him because he's entire, that could quite easily have been classed as this dog has now become aggressive. And it could have been, if somebody had gone to the vets and not said, oh, well, do you want to go and see somebody about that? They could have gone, euthanasia, because I can't have this dog in my house with this happening, because it is stressful. But actually, if you saw a little common sign of ear twitching, not even itching, not even shaking just a little ear twitch, a little rattle.
Slightly different carriage, even sometimes they sit differently when they're starting to get a problem. Now all these little things, they really do matter. And another good insight from you as a vet nurse type person. All right, lovely. I'm going to stop the recording now,
Lovely.
and then we shall leave you to your Friday evening.
Oh, thank you.